Hey GenderqueerChat, it's Matt. Happy Tuesday. This week's topic is would you date the old you? So we were asked to compose a hypothetical personal ad the way you may have promoted yourself 5 years ago and compare it to one that in the way that you may write it today, or talk about how your identity and understanding of yourself has changed over the past 5 or 10 years. I did try and write a personal ad, and I actually suggested the topic, so I thought it was going to be kind of easy to write that, and then as I started I just really didn't know what to put in it. I've never actually written a personal ad, and I don't know, I think it's maybe the process of writing it is something that's really quite personal and working out how you sell yourself, but I've found it very difficult to articulate that, which may be symptomatic of what I'll be talking about today. So I'll tackle the second part of it, which is talk about how your identity or understanding of yourself may have changed over the past 5 or 10 years. So if I had have written a personal ad 5 years ago, about that time I had just come out of a serious relationship. I'd been in a relationship for about 5 years, and actually it was a sort of a series of long-term relationships because I had been in another one prior to that. So I very much at that stage had a pretty solid identity, which was one of a partner, a boyfriend, sort of living in a family situation, so a parent, a father, and yeah, I guess I had a pretty solid identity that I had been going along with for roughly 10 years, which was a pretty good experience, a great experience in my life. After that 5 years, or 5 years ago when that ended, I guess it had the effect of, well, I'll be, in all honesty, it really threw me. Like, it was probably the worst event of my life, and it wasn't easy at all. The upside of it, though, was it was kind of like hitting a big reset switch. I'd very much been in that situation for the majority or all of my 20s. And it was kind of all I had ever known. So my whole adult life, or my experience as an adult, had revolved around being in that intense relationship situation, being part of a family, having those values, and I think I may be the only parent on the channel, but other parents, I guess, who may be listening may be able to relate that when you have a child in your life, especially if you're a young parent, like I was, it doesn't leave a lot of space for you to explore yourself. You very much take on the parent persona, and you have a lot of responsibility, and yeah, it doesn't leave a lot of time for self-discovery or exploration. So that's very much what I found, and I was quite happy in that role, and I don't regret it one little bit. But I guess when it did end, it gave me the opportunity to have that chance to find myself in different ways. So as I said, it was like hitting a big reset switch. Everything I had known, everything I believed, all the values I had, my vision of what the future would be like for me was suddenly thrown out the window, and yeah, I was left kind of a blank slate, or a skeleton, I guess, and had to rebuild an identity around that. So if I had have written a personal ad back then, it probably would have stated something like badly broken boy, just out of long-term relationship, pretty damaged, but trying to find themselves. I don't know. I don't think anyone would actually respond to that unless they want a bit of a fixer-upper, but yeah. It didn't take me long though before I really started to reflect on like my past relationships and who I was, and started to realise that some of the ways that I had been could have been improved. I wasn't a very independent person. I was very much living through the people that I was with, and yeah, I didn't really have a great sense of self or great sense of identity. I certainly had inklings of who I was and what I wanted to do, but it was a little bit unrealised. I was very much, focused on the reality of that situation, and didn't have, as I said before, didn't have a lot of chance to really explore myself. So yeah, hit the big reset switch, blank slate, really gave me for the first time in my life the opportunity to really work out what life meant to me, work out who I was, and I did that. Very much in the first year after it, it was all about socialising for me. Previously I hadn't had a lot of really close friends, or I had a bunch of really close friends. I hadn't had a broader social network like a lot of people enjoy. And it was something that I always identified that I wanted. So I remember telling my ex-partner that I just want really close friends. The thing about that was I really wanted close female friends, and I didn't quite realise why at the time, but that came more apparent later. So yeah, the first year was very much about being social, like going out, hanging out with new bunches of people of different sort of ages. And yeah, I got like lots of girlfriends in the sense of friends who were girls, not relationships. I did identify that I wasn't ready for a relationship. And yeah, it really was a learning experience. And I think it's not until you're in social situations like that and you have people that, I had people who loved me and thought I was awesome and wanted to be around me, and I very much started to realise who I was through that process. So through what other people, not what other people thought of me, but it gave me a sounding board or something, and to start exploring myself. Yeah, as I got deeper into it, I guess, through that process of learning about myself, the gender stuff started to come out a lot more. I had another relationship about a year after the hypothetical 5-year personal ad, and that relationship went for about a year, and that was with a really lovely person, and I thought I knew what I was doing, and I thought I was ready for another relationship, but really there was something that just wasn't right about it. Once I got out of that relationship was when I kind of went through this second phase of, I had built up a lot of confidence and a lot of sort of self-love, and I was feeling really good about myself, and I'd kind of taken I'd taken a year to like work through some issues and, you know, really work out who I was, and then I kind of launched into this new life with a new job and sort of moved cities and everything, and I was feeling very independent and empowered. And then I was in this relationship for a year, but something just wasn't right. So once I got out of it and had a chance to reflect, I started to realise that the type of person that I was into had changed. I started to question my sexuality, and this came at the same time as thinking about and questioning my gender as well. Of course, I'd always had an awareness that I wasn't comfortable with the gender that I was assigned with, or my birth sex. I always knew that I felt a bit more girly, or interpreted myself a bit more girly. I wasn't comfortable with what it meant to be a man, and it didn't really fit. I didn't have the language, though, to really process that. I hadn't really thought about, you know, that there were any other options. And for that 10 years, I was very much living sort of gender roles that were more feminine. I was very much the girl in most of my relationships. I took on a lot of, in a parenting capacity, I was a stay-at-home parent a lot of the time, so I took on the traditional mother role. And for the most part, people just let me do that, and it was fantastic and felt right, and it wasn't really an issue. But yeah, I guess, sort of losing train of thought there. I started to realise that I was looking for something different in a relationship, looking for a different kind of person. Then when I really started to unravel gender, and realise that, yeah, there is words for this, there is other people who experience this, came across words like transgender and genderqueer, sort of broke down the binary and realised that it wasn't just man or woman, there was other identities that could be had, and sort of, I guess, finally took control of that and accepted that I may be a little bit different, and that was okay, and started to explore it. And this was a really difficult time. It wasn't an easy thing to go through, as many of you would probably be able to attest to if once you've questioned gender. It can be a pretty rocky road. But I also was questioning sexuality at the same time. I couldn't work out, though, why I was questioning sexuality, since I wasn't attracted to a different kind of, I wasn't attracted to men, for instance, or not necessarily men. But yeah, there was just something that wasn't quite right. It wasn't until more recently, probably about 12 months ago, that, or a bit over that I started to realise that my sense of gender, who I saw myself, I was looking around for other people where that might be reflected, and I guess I saw it in lesbians, so female-born, female-identified people. I don't know, that I'm talking about sort of, not necessarily butch, but, you know, there's, you know, more independent and kind of, oh, sorry, that's really sexist, that's like a terrible thing to say. I guess I had a bit of a stereotype of what a lesbian was, and they were more outgoing and more independent and more stand-up-ish. I guess I saw a masculinity and a femininity in lesbian-identified people that felt kind of close to how I was feeling. So yeah, I guess after a while started to identify more with that, felt akin to the lesbian community, and started to make a lot of friends in the lesbian community. And I guess over the course of the last 12, 18 months, I started to identify as a lesbian and started to really process that as who I was looking for as well. So very much my vision of who I was and what I was after had changed quite a bit. So being a lesbian in a man's body is not easy, and it took a lot of it was caused a bit of anguish, I guess, trying to think about that. As I've said in some of my other videos, I've kind of scooted around the topic, but have mentioned how important it was for me to sort of hang out with the lesbians in Sydney when I went to the Mardi Gras, and certainly in my current relationship, I very much feel that it's a lesbian or a queer relationship, even though clearly biologically we have one male and one female, and somebody else might look at that and think it's heterosexual, but it works really well. So yeah, I guess if I was writing a personal ad now, which I haven't done, but if I was, and if I was single and looking for someone, I would want to really express my gender identity. I'd want to let people know that I'm genderqueer, because that's important to me, important for other people to know, especially somebody who might be getting into a relationship with me. So I'd want to sell that as one of my characteristics. Having said that, how do you sell that in a way that people are going to understand? And I'd also want to explain to people that my sexuality is queer, and even though I may be dating or looking to date a female-bodied person, I wouldn't necessarily conceptualise that relationship or see that relationship in a heterosexual way. I'd very much see it as a queer relationship or a lesbian relationship, if you were able to navigate that term into, embody that term in the relationship. But yeah, so I think 5 years ago I would have considered myself male. I would have been attracted to females. I would have seen myself as heterosexual. I didn't really have much of a concept of like being gay or queer. And yeah, I guess I was very much looking to emulate the experiences and the relationships and the image that I had of myself that I had been maintaining over the last 10 years. Now I think I have got a much better understanding of myself, and much more free and open with myself, have really taken on sort of a queer identity, both in gender and sexuality, and am really living that and loving it, and I feel that's close, that's who I am. So it's just been a matter of finding those words and having those experiences and being given the opportunity to really, sort of free myself from my past experiences and find out who I am. So would I date the old me? Probably not, but he wasn't a bad character. I think I prefer the person that I am now, and I would be more attracted to that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's funny what 5 years can do. Cool. Anyway, I'll see you next week.